Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Brooks Price Action Weekend Market Update. My name's Tim Fairweather, and today I'll be covering the DAX 40 futures. So let's take a look at the DAX 40. We've got the cash index here, and I've got the monthly chart. Here is resistance. We broke above resistance and we tested it, and I thought this range in the middle might become a measuring gap. So I took the low around 17,022, the gaps at 18.8, and so the target might be something like 26.18. We already reached one-to-one on this high one buy signal. If you took traders that took the buy the close got paid. Traders that bought one tick above the high of that bar have not got one-to-one yet, but we're basically around 20,500, which is the target that we've been talking about on the monthly chart. So coming into the end of the year where the bulls want to close above 20,000, the bears just didn't do enough. Would have been better if this bear bar closed on its low, but you can see in the past 13 months, how many good sell signals were there? So that's the monthly chart. What about DAX on the weekly chart? Well, you can see here, we broke up to 19,700. So we missed 20,000. We had a pullback. This can be a low too short. It triggered, but the entry bar was no good here. Okay, it's got a tail on it, but it's still a first leg sideways. Then we've got an inside bar. We've got a second leg sideways, and now we've got a high two buy signal. And you can see this huge gap that triggered on the weekly chart. There were a lot of buyers sitting there. This got a great entry bar. Traders that didn't take this signal, perhaps because it closed in this tight trading range, that's okay. Now, if you're buying here, interestingly enough, the question was, where do you put your stop? I thought it might have been 18.8, somewhere down here, betting that the price is going to stay above 19,000. If you put your stop exactly at 19,000 and bought above that high, that's where the week closed, 20,400. Traders who took this high too now have a 2-to-1, so reasonable for them to take profits up here. 3 bull bars in a row, we've broken strongly above support. And we said last week, around about 20,500 might be where we stop. And if we look at the high there, 20,521. So we weren't far off. Always in long on this time frame. This is a bull channel and this is a bull breakout. What's the odds of this bull breakout forming another bull channel? Only about 25%. So the odds are that this will fail in about 5 bars. So sometime in January, start to go sideways and probably drift back into this channel. Then the targets will be the middle of this channel and the trading range. This tight trading range in here will probably act as a final flag. And often you go one measured move of that final flag. So I suspect we're going to come back into 19.5 and 20,000. But the bears don't have a sell signal. You've now got bulls buying one tick above the high of the prior week. This is a disappointing entry bar. You can see the close of that bar, 20,420, high of that bar, 20,428. So a trader who took the last buy there is actually 8 points below their entry. They wanted another bull bar, hoping it was going to break up. Now this is disappointing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week. Do they exit break even, look to buy lower? This is a breakout and some kind of a follow through. So it's not a sell to close, but bears will be trying to get back into this range. This is a very common setup. You're in a bull channel. The first pullback, high one buy. After you have a high one, often you'll have a high one and then a high two set up. If you didn't take that, you've got another high one here, or the second signal, you can take the high two. And then same again, because we had a high two here, common to get another high two. That high one went sideways. Now you got a high two around that price. So the market's transitioned into two-legged pullbacks. So I don't think the next high one's going to work. So I think sideways to up still on the weekly chart. We might see if these traders, these bulls are going to get short here, but without a signal bar, not a great entry, I don't think. And that's DAX on the weekly chart. Okay, so let's look at DAX on the daily chart. You can see here, we had 3 legs up, and this is a wedge. The market's expecting 2 legs sideways to down. You could argue that there are 3 legs down. It's a wedge bottom. It's a counter trend wedge setup. And this is why fading wedges that are with the trend can be a bad idea. You can convince yourself to get short, you miss it, you try and sell again. And then by the time you've mucked around selling, the bull trend continues. Now you've got a very strong breakout with many gaps. This leg is actually stronger than any of these legs. You can also see this leg is more vertical. So if I take that arrow, place it over here, stronger than that, stronger than that, stronger than this. And if you compare that direction with the direction down, that was the climax. So although this is incredibly strong, I'm a little bit suspicious. This strength is okay at the start of a move. It's okay for the second leg of a move. But when it occurs very late in a move, I think it's important to see follow through. You can see there was a high one buy signal. We've got a new high. Here's a pullback. And now we've got a high one. And what happened? No one wants to buy here yet. If this is going to form a spike and then a channel, compare this channel. So this move was flatter, but the channel had more of an incline. This move is more vertical and this channel is flatter. So it's actually doing the opposite of what we're expecting. So I think this is concerning. We're far from the moving average and we've got a very big gap. So I'm not willing to short. I want to see more bullishness before I buy so high on this chart. Because there are so many gaps below, I think there are good places to scale into a short, maybe with a two-legged pullback. Last week, if you look at the 5 days, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, was basically sideways. That doji on the weekly chart with these bars. So I think the only traders selling are bulls selling out of longs. Here's a bear bar, it triggers, and then look at where the profit taking appears, back up at the high of that bar. This can keep drifting sideways to up, but the fact that we're starting to get dojis with one tick bodies, I think is a warning. If I go back through the chart and find dojis with nearly no body, strong spike, we came back to it. Here we broke up and came back. This is counter trend, so probably not as important. Here we went above, we went below, came back to it, went below, came back. So now that we've got these small dojis in this move, my expectation is we go up, we come back, or we go down and come back. So not a great place for stop entries, but perhaps scaling into a long. So rather than buying up here, you wait for pullback and a buy signal back to that area, or you wait for a better buy signal. If you didn't trade this move on the daily chart, that's okay. If you're unable to trade this well on a 5-minute chart, I think there's a couple of ways you can practice it. I'll remove the sideways price action. If you're using a program like TradingView, go back until it was very, very clear. Was this when it was very, very clear? Or was this when it was very, very clear? Well, here is a good close, but it's not above the high of that trading range. Here is a great close. Now we've got a very strong close with two big gaps. As Al would say, you've got two strong bull bars closing on their highs above the moving average, 70% chance or 60% chance we're going higher. So that's one entry you can take. If you can't take it on the size you're trading, find a way to trade smaller. So you can trade the motor skills of entering. If you didn't take that, now you've got to break out and follow through above that range. So there's another entry there. We can see the traders who bought the consecutive bars have got their one-to-one target. If a trader bought this bar, where do they put their stop? They can have their stop all the way down here. One of the advantages of having a trade that immediately goes in your direction is you have a couple of options for your stop. This is a breakout bar above the range. I think for that trade, the stop can go here. If that breakout trade is going to work, we don't want price coming all the way back into this range. So having a stop down here is wide and safe, but I think not necessary in terms of profit targets in a spike. In terms of actual risk, it's zero because it immediately went in your direction. So I think we're around about the one-to-one profit target. As well, I like to look at some of these signal bars. Generally, when you have a big signal bar, okay, so a good bull bar closing on its high, these bars generally don't get 2 and 3 to 1. And that's because it's a very obvious signal. And if you've got high probability, you generally don't get so much risk reward. These traders have got 1-to-1 on that bar. If you bought that bar, price never went against you. I think if price was to go down, they'd take 2R. Maybe they're waiting for more. The later you get in the spike, the less you get paid. If you bought that small bar, there's your 3-to-1. If you waited for this bar, here's your 1-to-1. So you can see the earlier in the move you can participate, the more profit potential you have. If you're waiting for 6 bars to get in, then you might have already missed this move. So always in long, sideways to up expected. Now we've got dojis. I wouldn't be surprised if we hover somewhere between 2,600 and whatever the spike break here is, which is 2,200. So it might be a small range next week. Price dips into 2,200, 2,100 kind of area into this open gap. I think it's going to find buyers as these bear scalpers take profits. But we'll see what happens coming into the last 2 weeks of the year. And that was the DAX 40. For next week. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that valuable. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below. For those of you on the Brooks Price Action Discord, you can also reach me on there under Tim F. Otherwise, please tune into my channel. I'll be posting new videos through the week. Have a great trading week, and I'll see you next weekend.